Hello, everybody, and welcome to New Unique Peace. I am Janice. I am a Reiki Master Teacher here on Long Island, as well as an intuitive medium and the host of Unique Peace. Today, I am joined by Transformational Coach Davey Joe Bonessi. He is truly committed to holistic wellness, helping people break through limiting beliefs and reconnecting with their inner wisdom. And we're going to find out how that all connects to his definition of peace. So join me in welcoming Davey Joe. Hi.
Hello, namaste.
Namaste. Welcome. Welcome. How are you this day?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm doing well.
Excuse me, getting over the cold.
Oh, yeah.
So you have quite an interesting story.
Uh-huh.
And it's taken a lot for you to become a transformational coach. So can you walk us through your journey of how you got to where you are?
Yeah, sure. So when I was a little boy, I'm just joking. We could go back that far, and probably further. But for me, I was always aware that there was a deeper layer to life than we see. And I was always very, very contemplative my entire life. And even as a transformational coach now, who I formally set myself into meetings with people to support them and everything like that. It's something that's just been happening my whole life. It's something that I have memories in elementary school of coaching my peers. I found myself supporting kids who got bullied a lot and finding power and finding the strength to stand up for themselves and that sort of thing. So it's been something that's really natural, but ultimately it came through, I think this is the case for a lot of people, not that it has to be this way, but it's common. It's through suffering, it's through sorrow, it's through really struggling with life. I suffered severe depression, chronic depression for a long time. I don't really know life much without what depression is. It's just there. It was just there from my earliest memories, some of my earliest memories. And as I aged and self-medicated and just did all the wrong things, it just spiraled down and got worse and worse and worse, which again, there's a level of grace in hitting bottom,
Mm-hmm.
where there's only one way to go, and it's either that or die. And that was actually the realization that I had. It was, and the major turning point, because I was always really interested in deeper things, and I was also interested in wellness for myself, even without wellness being a thing. You know what I mean? I always just wanted to feel better, and just find a way to enjoy life. Because at the same time, I had manic behaviors, so I had deep depressions for months at a time, and then I would be elated and happy and excited about life on the other end of it. So, and it was just this oscillation of these extremes. And so it wasn't I didn't experience any joy. So I knew it was possible, and I was always, before I knew anything about anything, I was always looking, or even seeking, and even questioning, is it possible to be at a sustained level of feeling good about life, or am I just inevitable? Are we all just inevitably subject to this roller coaster of life that's just going to toss us around, and we're at the mercy of it? And so these are big questions that I had, as a late teen, when I started looking into meditation, and I started doing breath work about when I was 19 years old, and adopted a consistent meditation practice and stuff like that, but I didn't have any guidance, just and that sort of thing, and doing it kind of on my own. And so it didn't really do a whole lot. I used to say, when people talk to me about meditation, I would say, well, it's like hiring a librarian for my thoughts. And at that moment,
that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, and it just helped me maybe just see things a little better, create a little bit more awareness. But at that time, for me, I just still had some really toxic habits. So it didn't really feel like I was getting anywhere, except for I have to acknowledge that if I didn't have that, I don't know how much worse it could have been, you know? So, but a turning point came after the second time I got arrested. I really came to the realization that all of my problems are self-induced, that there wasn't any way for me to justify blaming the world or blaming anybody for what I was going through, but not only that, but for how I was behaving in the world and in my life. So it was a moment where I finally acknowledged that and took initiative. And the first thing I did was I climbed a mountain and I spoke out to the universe. This is like my big moment where I declared a new life for myself. I literally hiked to the top of a mountain. It's called Prospect Peak in Vermont. And I stood at the top and I hollered out into existence. I said, I don't know if God is real, but if you are, just take my life. Either knock me off of this cliff or take control and over my life. And that's really the beginning for me, was that moment.
Wow. And after that profound moment, after that proclamation, how did things kind of fall into place? I know that you are an instructor of breathwork, you are a shaman, and you are a yogi, in fact, and you are a wedding officiant. I know that from personal experience. Excuse me. So how did those dominoes kind of fall into place for you?
Yeah. It's one of those things where I asked the universe to show me something, and this is one of my favorite things to communicate with anybody who struggles is call out to the universe, because it didn't take more than days for me to start noticing that something heard me, you know, something heard me, like, and even then, like at that point too, like it wasn't even like a linear thing. I started to notice things that happened months earlier that were directly associated with aligning me with being in the right place to have that moment, you know? So to start to notice, like, synchronicities are always there, whether we notice them or not. And at this point, like, every moment of my life is synchronistic. I can't deny anything. But one of the first things that happened was, I don't know exactly the timeline. I'm going to say a few weeks after that kind of big moment on the top of the mountain, is I was curiously wandering around the bookstore, and in like the philosophy and religious section, and one of the books that just jumped out at me was the Bhagavad Gita, and which is like an authority on yoga. And I don't know, maybe 6 months before that, I literally said out loud, yoga is gay. You know, that's and I'm so sorry for that statement. You know what I mean? Like, but I want to put that out there and just be like transparent about that, because I just want people to know where it came from. You know, in a statement like that is such an ignorant statement. You know, it's such a low vibe, or whatever you want to call it. You know, but I like for people to know that about me, that I know what it's like to be like an idiot. You know, I know what it's like to be evil. I know what it's like to be an evil person. I know what causes evil people to act the way that they do. I've done horrible things in my life to people. I've really hurt people in my life. And I don't want to hide from that happening. In fact, I celebrate it because of where I'm at and what I'm doing with my life now. So yeah, the Bhagavad Gita was the first thing that really showed up, that really hit me. I bought it. I took it home. I read the entire thing from cover to cover in one day. It was a copy of it without any commentary. So usually it's a big, thick book with commentary explaining what's going on. But I found a copy that just was the poem itself. And I read through it that very evening. And then the next morning, I read through the entire thing again. And then I put it down for a while, and my life literally stacked up from there. I found a community in a yoga studio. I started meditating regularly, And then not long after that, I joined a yoga teacher training and started teaching yoga. And then I learned Reiki, went step by step to becoming a Reiki master. I found a teacher in shamanism right after that, and went through this whole journey with him where he shared me the shamanic practices and everything, which I don't want anyone to throw lettuce at me. I wouldn't claim myself to be a shaman or anything like that. It's a word that people are sensitive about these days, but the practices and everything that I've learned is a deep part of my journey in my life now, and my understanding of how to support people in healing.
And that is a beautiful way of, sometimes this spiritual journey, there was no spiritual bypassing for you. There's as they say, and it's not easy to be in the muck and the mire in the thick of things and overcoming it.
Yeah.
And kind of knowing that it's still, it continues to happen. Just because you're enlightened doesn't mean the suffering stops, or that you're not going to have challenges. You just deal with them better.
Absolutely. And I would say that that's what, if there was to be something that could be said about what a more enlightened life is it's not like resisting life anymore in all of its ebbs and flows and everything. And being able to move through something incredibly challenging. You know, I mean, I think about even people like, you know, of course, Mahatma Gandhi, but even Abraham Lincoln and the trials that some of the people in the world went through, and to have gone through them with such integrity and dignity and power to make such incredible change in the world. I wouldn't say it's anything short of mastery of self and connection with something really sacred, something really divine, to guide that intuition to make decisions that affect countries. I mean, mass populations.
Mass populations, yeah.
Yeah.
So with all of your past knowledge and all of your current knowledge, how do you personally define peace?
Uh-huh. I think the first thing that shows up for me is acceptance, and probably even a radical acceptance of things. And then I'd also have to put into that faith. Yeah. And for me, a lot of my peace comes from, I'm really rooted in that. I love the word God. I've reclaimed it for myself, but I know it may still be sensitive for some people, but whatever the source of existence itself is, I'm anchored in that source, that power, that force is benevolent completely all the time. One of my favorite quotes from the Bible is, God is good all the time. And I anchor in that, but at the same time, I'm a reasonable man, because I don't just like believe it and deny what's going on in the world. I actually look deeper into what's going on to the world and says, I want to know for sure that there's benevolence in that. And I want to know how, and I want to understand that this is an actual reality. I don't want to just wander around life saying things that coddle my ego by bypassing things. I want to know for certain, if I'm going to say that God is indeed good all the time, then I want to know how that actually works. And that's really what I'm dedicated to largely, because it's something I wanted to believe. And similar to me with my past journey of like, I just wanted a happy life and a sustained happy life. Is it possible? I'm going to go and find out. I'm going to just dive into life with that in the front of my perspective and attention. And I'm going to prove it. I'm going to see it or not, you know, whichever way it goes. I'm not attached to it, but I want to know. And so this idea about just even amongst all the tragedy that's going on in the world, there is some kind of benevolent order to all of it that's happening for the greatest good of everybody who's going through whatever they're going through. And my life is an exact testimony of that. Everything. And I've not only have I done horrible things, I've had horrible things done to me. And I can genuinely exist in peace because I've looked deeply into them. That I've sat with everything that I've experienced that arises with me, and I've looked into it in a way that has shown me how it's steering me to become become something incredible. And this is actually how we accomplish greatness, is exactly what we're talking about right now, is being able to move through all the challenges of life and all the tragedies of life for myself and for what I witness as well. And to do so in honor that all that we're being carried through is to shape us into something absolutely incredible and profound.
And with that definition, how do you bring peace into your everyday life?
One of the things that's a big part of it is the capacity to pause, the capacity to, whatever's going on, whatever it might be, to not allow myself to just get pulled into something that might be tumultuous. And it's a way of kind of moving slowly, and even if the world is hectic, even if the world is buzzing, or even if the situation is like really wild or something like that, is to stay really rooted and really grounded in myself. And one of the things that we learn from yoga, when you get a little deeper into yoga, it's the cultivation and meditation in general. I guess it wouldn't just be yoga, because there's some Buddhist practices that do the same thing. But meditation in itself, it strengthens your ability to stay grounded in your own pure being. And something that happens is, when something happens in front of us that we see, we get like emotional, and our attention and our energy moves out into it and then gets entangled in it. This is karma. This is an entanglement of getting drawn into the dramas of life. And then we're all like wrapped up in it and being bounced around. But finding and anchoring and rooting in what I could just say is my own true essence, without getting pulled out, is the way that is, for me, the only way to maintain peace.
That is fair. That is fair. Because when we get sucked into somebody else's vortex and not staying on our own, that's when chaos ensues, for sure.
Yeah. And it's not a dishonor of anybody.
No.
And in fact, it's a great honor. And that's something that's been supportive for me, especially in the early days of embodying this sort of practice. It's like, for some reason, we feel obligated to over empathize and like be in it with others. But you can be in it with others as something that's transcendent of whatever they're going through. It doesn't mean you don't have empathy. It doesn't mean that you're not able to support, or you're neglecting somebody. And again, in fact, it's just being something grounded for someone to see what they're going through in a greater light is like one of the best things that we can do for each other.
So with that definition and those ways of bringing peace in, what are some of your daily practices, or what are some of your go-to practices to bring in peace?
Yeah, breath work is something that I do every day in so many different ways. It's been a consistent part of my daily life for, again, I was 19, so over 20 years now, of taking some time anytime during the day. Nowadays, it's in the morning and in the evening before I go to bed. I'll do a little simple breath work, but also anytime I'm being physically active. I'm a pretty active person, so like I'll tap into some actually learned breath exercises while I'm being physical, and that's incredible and amazing. And so that's one thing for like, even for vitality and for staying grounded and that sort of thing. But some other things I do is, when I have like negative thoughts, is I cultivate something that I like to call this power to reject and accept, is something that we really need to be skilled in, because something arises within me from something deep. And if it's not something good, if it's from my old world, that's just kind of bubbling up and trying to get me to go back into it because it wants to rebirth itself. I have to have this sacred rejection of saying, this is not my life anymore. I reject you from my world, and then replace it with something that's good for me, that's positive. So an active relationship with anything that arises within me too. And then for me recently too, actually, I've been really grounding in being able to guard myself from influence from others too.
That is hard.
Yeah, that can be, especially when it's people you really love and people that you care about. We still have to have this ability to have healthy and safe boundaries for ourselves.
Boundaries are key, and they're not always easy, especially with like family dynamics, relationship dynamics, friendships, work environments that you work to get out of, but while you're in it, you have to go through it.
Yeah. And there's some relations that we're just meant to really journey through for a lifetime with some family members that we can't run away from.
Oh.
And we just have to, and that's our testing ground, that's our shaping ground, of like where we really get to put into practice. I don't know what it means to be, I don't know what a good word is for it, but something greater in the world than just the one who's not living consciously,
Yes. And so with those practices and how you live your life to be peaceful, or how you are able to bring peace into your life throughout the day, how do you help others bring peace into their lives?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is awareness. Is start to notice where you defy your own peace. Where do you have things that come up that you're allowing to stay in your own field? Nothing stays within us that we don't allow. Nothing. Everything that arises within us, every tendency that we have, it's all fed by our own attention. And that's our great responsibility. And this is the shift into, my great question when I was younger of, are we just meant to just ride the storms of life? And are we just at the mercy of this roller coaster of life? No, we can live consciously, and it takes incredible responsibility and incredible humility and incredibly keen awareness to be able to notice when we're finding ourselves a little bit satisfied in something toxic.
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yes. And it's also interesting somatically. I'm not sure if you're familiar with somatics, but somatically, where we hold on to those past and repressed emotions and then trying to find a way to release them. I know a lot of people have released them through breath work.
Yeah, amazing things can happen through some really deep breath work, like journey. It's a little breath work is different than like yogic pranayama.
Yeah.
They're both incredible, but the breath work itself that you're referring to, like that's like a deep cleansing of like on a cellular level that just allows this kind of detox of things. And what I love about it too is a journey that I've been on for the past, since my son was born, year and a half, is diving into like how mind and body are connected on a level that's measurable. And there's some like really brilliant things out there, and there's really like this incredible communication between mind and body that happens. So, and something like breath work can really be a beautiful conduit to get a genuine cleansing. But there's always integration that needs to continue. It's not enough to just go in and jam out on a breath work. You have to find a way to integrate it into your life and embody it, because patterns, they take patterns to rewrite or decode.
Yes. That's interesting that you say that, because that is the truth. You've got to, if you're releasing something, there's a void and it wants to be filled. So what are you replacing it with? It's an interesting concept, but it's very real. It's very, very real.
Yeah. And I think Einstein even declared that too. He says energy itself is not something that can be created or destroyed. It's the energy that's in the universe. It's infinite, and it's not, there's nowhere for it to go. It was never even born. It's an infinite, you know.
Yeah.
So anything that arises is something that got, you know, something. It's like a, I look at it as like there's principles to existence in life, and some of them are life-giving and some of them are life-taking, and those principles get like collected in these little orbs, and they get printed into us somehow, and then we carry them around for a little while, and so we have to like polish and clean those little things and then put something else in there.
Yes. You had mentioned becoming a father. So what has fatherhood taught you about peace?
Yeah. Something that often comes up when people ask me, oh, so what's it like being a new dad and everything? And I can't say that this is the case for everybody, but for me especially, that my life's journey would not have been complete without having a child. And for the sake of even me accomplishing or stepping into the greatest version of myself, that what I'm being carried through to be the father that I want to be is everything that I also need to move through for all of my spiritual goals, if we want to use those kinds of words. You know, that goals is a weird word, but you know, I aspire to know God on the deepest, and to know myself on the deepest levels, and my son is really my guru in that.
Yeah.
So he's amazing. Yeah, because he's so pure and innocent, you know, and just being being himself, and for me to show up for him is really calling me into refining everything that I've already cultivated. And I'm grateful, you know, I'm 40 years old and just had my first child, and I'm really grateful that I've had this space in my life to really work on myself so that I can show up for him.
And you're a transformational coach. So what does that, how do you bring that piece to those teachings? How do you, when you're working with somebody and you're going through all the things, how do you keep them peaceful?
It's kind of a combination of things. And a lot of it has to do with just paradigm shifts, you know, because even like hearing someone's story, for example, it's one of the first things we do is just open up some space where I can just hold space and hear someone, what they're going through. And you pick up on little things as you hear people communicate when you're just kind of there and observing. And so one of the first things that happens is to notice little details in the stories that we tell, and to say, well, is this something that we believe in? Is this something you want to believe in? You know, and to really like give a vivid check-in of like, this is a story that's playing out. You've probably told this story dozens and dozens of times, and let's like slow down and really look at it. Is this story something you want to embody? You know, and a lot of times like, whoa, I mean, no, it's not. That's kind of why we're here.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you, like I even said before about the little satisfaction we get from toxic things. Sometimes it's like, you got to really pull the plug on that. So that's one of the first things is awareness, is that. And then another big thing for me is to get clear on how we really want to feel. Is to get clarity. A lot of times we don't even really sit with that too. We go through life, we just want to feel better, and that's very vague. It's like, I just want to be better, I just want to be happy, you know. That's not enough, you know, because everybody's got their own version of what that looks like.
Right. Everyone's definition of happiness is different, just like everyone's definition of peace is different. Exactly. So yeah. What does happiness look like? What does happiness feel like? So right. What does peace look like? And what does peace feel like?
Yeah.
And so, and on your journey, what have you learned about peace?
That it's a choice. It's a choice we can make in any moment. It's something that's always available, no matter what. And again, even amongst, I think I said to you off camera before, but my relationship with my own struggles and challenges is a healthy relationship, because I have a foundation. I have a foundation of God is good all the time, and that everything that happens within my world is for me to grow, become greater. It's benevolent, all of it. And so that's an anchor that allows me to remain peaceful no matter what's going on.
And an interesting question that just popped to mind.
Cool.
What are you teaching your son about peace?
The first thing that we're communicating with him is regulating with breath. Actually, it's one of the first things we've really worked with him on, as far as when he gets upset, and it's turned into we had to go through a few different things to like work him through it. But for example, he would get upset because he's like hungry and we're not making his food fast enough, and he's just like, I don't get it. Like, why is there not food in my mouth right now? Like, you're standing right, You're
standing at the stove. Give it to me.
Where's the food, Dad?
Yep, I remember those days.
Yeah. And so one of the first things we started to do is we would say, do prana, or we would say, take a breath. And it's, and something actually, a key point to this too, is we didn't only work on this stuff with him when he was stressed. We actually worked on this stuff at random times, even when we were happy and even when we were already peaceful, just to bring this level of like, hey, we're sitting here outside. He's like sitting on my lap. We're just looking at the trees. It's beautiful. And we're just taking deep breaths together, And then when it came to time where he's stressed, and I would call it prana, I would say, we're going to do prana. And we would sit and we would take deep breaths for a while in a already peaceful moment. And then when he becomes stressed, I say, do prana. And he knows what I'm talking about. And it's not something I have to show him when he's in a
frenzy.
Yeah. So he already knew what to go to, and then it turned into like, be patient, and he would take a breath, or even like, take it easy, buddy, and he would take a breath, and he started even finding his own ways of doing it. And then for a while, as we would say, relax, buddy, take it easy, we're gonna get it for you, or whatever we would say. When he was stressed out, he would take like one breath and then be like, give me more, and then go right back. He would like, see, I did it. Now give me my food.
That's great.
Yeah. So we had to teach him that, like, keep breathing, keep taking breaths. And it's a journey that we're just building on, but it's something that he's actually pretty good on now. And he'll even say I'll hear him whisper to himself, patience, and then start breathing. It's pretty amazing to watch. It's a year and a half.
That's awesome.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Very cool. And something I always love to ask is, what's in your toolbox? So you kind of explained how you pull your toolbox out for your son. Now, from a client's perspective, what's in your toolbox? Somebody is just like trying to spiritually bypass or not really dive deep, and they're getting frustrated because it's not working out the way they envisioned it. Because remember, we always come in with some sort of vision that I'm going to go on a vision quest. I'm going to go on a retreat. I'm going to go on a breathwork journey or what have you, and I'm going to be good. And like you mentioned, integration. So there's going to be some stressful moments with clients. How do you kind of bring in those peaceful tactics?
Awesome question. That's been one of my probably greatest teachers too, is meeting moments like that. Because my history, I have a history of anger and rage and even being so sensitive to being offended by people, and then just getting aggressive about it. And so, like, at this point in my life, those old tendencies still, they're at a whisper at this point, where they used to kick the door down. But they're at such a whisper, but they still show themselves within me. And but it's actually been one of the ways that I've seen some of the greatest shifts with clients is for someone who's open. For some, there's just no openness maybe, and maybe we're just out of alignment, and we just have to say, I don't think we're meant to work together. There might be other areas that can support you better, and that sort of thing. So it's either that, or we persist and keep going. And one of the things I've directly said to people that has had a major impact was somebody was getting a little nasty with me, And I just looked him in the eyes and I said, "You're making it really difficult for me to love you right now."
That phrase is going to come in handy in about 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. Yeah. So yeah, that's something. And, you know, I've experienced this well, is how powerful open mirroring is too. You know, like if I'm really not all that reactive, and if I'm just anchored in my own peace inside, and I'm just looking somebody in the eyes, even if they're like yelling at me, you know, even if they're upset with me, and I'm anchored in something confident and peaceful, they're going to see themselves so clearly, and they're going to see what's going on, and they'll have their own revelation, and that'll look like whatever it is, you know. And this is something I learned actually a long time ago. I remember when I was a mess and I was going to bars and like doing silly things with my life. I remember one particular instance. I don't know. I said something to this guy. It pissed him off. Everybody was drunk, so you know everything was all weird. And you know, he gets up and he like threw a chair at me or whatever. And I wasn't afraid, and I just stood there and I looked at him. And I didn't say anything. And I just looked him deep into the eyes, and he backed out, and he bought me a beer, you know, and we ended up, you know, talking a little bit after that, and everything was fine. But it was that moment, but I've had so many other moments, even as a conscious practitioner of working with people through things, is how powerful it is for me to just stay anchored into something peaceful, and then be a reflection.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, powerful.
Very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And as we kind of draw to a close, is there anything you would like to share when it comes to peace?
It's our power, and it's something worthy to choose and to make a priority to embody in our world. It's easy to get upset about what's going on in the world. It's easy to get angry with what's going on in the world and in our own lives, and in any given moment. But something I like to remember is, what's something that the world needs more of? And no matter what my justifications are for my anger, is my anger something that the world needs more of? Even if it's my anger is directed at something justified, it's still anger being put into the world. Yeah. And I get it that sometimes we need to fight, and I'm on board with that too. Sometimes there's no choice.
Sometimes there's no choice. Yes, exactly.
And that's okay. And that's something, but we'll know if it comes to a place where we have to fight, then we'll be called to fight, and it's good, and it's okay. And it's important for us to be ready for that. But at the same time, carrying around anger and resentment for the way things are, we forget that the world is built and created and governed by love and by something absolutely powerful, even if life isn't reflecting it at the moment. The grand design of existence, and this is just my life's testimony. The grand design. I could get upset with what happened to me in my life. I could get angry at it still. I could still justify the things that happened to me and say, well, why did that happen? That wasn't fair, or whatever it was. It was unjustified. It doesn't matter. All that I can say about it is, I am the way that I am, who I am, and I can help the people that I can help today because of those things that happened. And I'm so grateful for that.
Exactly.
So
have you ever noticed, before we close, you noticed that you call in the people you can help by what you've been through?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like part of the journey, you know, as we're carried through things. And if you make it out, it's all I really want to do. It's all I really want to do is support other people in things that are similar to what I went through, or not, you know, like whatever. But at the same time, if there's so many people that I speak to, or I'm like, oh my, it's like talking to myself, you know, in the past, you know, and what a blessing to do that.
Yes, Because then there's that connection. It's like, hey, buddy, I've been there.
Yeah.
I've been there.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Davey. This has been a wonderful conversation.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to put you in the green room. Don't go anywhere.
All right. All right.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today on this beautiful edition of Unique Peace. And we will connect you if you want to work with Davey. I will connect you with him. I'll give you my Instagram, his Instagram channels, and his website. So be on the lookout for that, and have a great and peaceful day. Thank you.